Daf Ayin Dalid. Today's daf is for Refuah Shalema for Tanchum Ben Chana. The sugya that we're discussing is Hakchasha Tchilas Hazama. Translated is, Rava holds that contradiction is the beginning of Hazama. We can illustrate this principle by an example. Two witnesses testify that Reuven killed Shimon. Two other witnesses testify that Levi was the murderer. The third set of witnesses testify that the first set was with them somewhere else at the time of the murder. Although the first witnesses were contradicted by the second, the third witnesses make them zomimim, and they are executed in place of who they attempted to accuse. Now, Rav and Abaye have a machlokes as to whether this point can be proven from a brisa. Rav assumes that the brisa in discussion is referring to three sets of witnesses. The second set contradicting the first. The example being where the first set of witnesses, the master injures his slave by knocking out his tooth first and blinding him second. The second set of witnesses come and reverse the order of events. They contradict the first set of witnesses. That is a hakchasha. Yet, according to Rava, the brisa claims that when the third set of witnesses come and claim that the second set were Eidei Hazama, the second set has to pay the master for the slave's eye. This that they wanted to make the master pay. Abaye disagrees. He claims that the brisa is only discussing two sets of witnesses, and the second set that reversed the order also claimed that the first set were Eidei Hazama. So therefore, there was no hakchasha before the Hazama. Either we're going to say that the Hazama took place before the hakchasha, or it may have taken place after the hakchasha, but toch kedei dibur of the hakchasha. And therefore there was no hakchasha before the Hazama. Rava attempts to prove his point again from the Seif of the Brisa, that in fact there were three sets of witnesses. The basis of assuming that hakchasha is the tchilas hazama. Abaye again disagrees and claims that even in the Sefer, Rav is not forced to discuss three sets of witnesses. However, there's a question that begs the premise. Why does the master have to pay the slave if the slave sued the master in court, assuming only after he injured both of his organs? After he injured him by either way, knocking out his tooth and blinding him, or vice versa. Why don't we assume that both of those things that happen only free the slave and do not require an additional payment? So the Gemara answers that the verse mentions tachas in reference to each organ, indicating that for an individual organ that he injures, the master has to pay. Or in our case, the Eidei Hazama. Gemara rejects our Mishnah as being a proof to Rav as well. Our Mishnah discusses a case where one set of witnesses testified both about the theft and the slaughter or sale of the animal. They were muzam about both. Once they were muzam about the geneva, it is a hakchasha in respect to the slaughter, and still they pay for the slaughter. We can infer hakchasha tchilas hazama. The Gemara answers that hazama was on the slaughter first, so that the testimony concerning the theft is still valid. The Gemara concludes that the argument of Abaye and Rava is also an argument between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar holds that witnesses contradicted in a murder case, and then muzam receives lashes for testifying falsely. If they were warned for the death penalty, which we referred to as a lav shenitan lazhoras misas besdin, how can they get malchus? Therefore, we must conclude, once they were contradicted, they cannot receive the death penalty. Hakosha lav tchilas hazamahi, according to Rabbi Elazar. Therefore, we must conclude that Rabbi Yochanan holds hakosha tchilas hazama like Rava.